Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Buffalo End Zone podcast. I'm Andy Young. Kevin Carroll a little bit under the weather this week, so I'm riding solo, but we have a special guest along for the ride, a Buffalo Bills fan through and through, a Western New York native, and you might know him from some movies, from some TV shows. We have actor and Western New York native Chad Michael Murray with us. Happy to have Chad here to talk about the Bills and his career. Chad, thanks so much for joining us.
Dude, happy to be here, brother. How you doing?
I am doing excellent. We are so excited to have you with us because we know that your Bills fandom goes way back, and you've been in Hollywood for, as we talked just moments ago before we came on, 25 years. It's incredible. Take us through growing up in Western New York and kind of how you became a Bills fan.
You're born into it, man. Everybody listening knows that. You're born into it. There's no way around it. I remember it probably started right around, I was a little later, but it was probably 8, 9, 10. My mother was the one who would, we'd rush home from church, and our pastor, Father John, he would always make sure that we wrapped up church like 15 minutes early so everyone could get home for the kickoff.
That's so Buffalo, right?
It's so Buffalo. And so he's like, all right, God bless you and go Bills. And so we'd all head out and get home. And, my earliest memories were of like that great Bills-Dolphins game where Jim dives into the end zone to win the game. So those are some of my earliest memories of watching the games. I was in my living room, my brothers around, my mom's there, and so my dad. And so that was kind of the birth into it. I remember that my parents put me to sleep for the first Super Bowl. I wasn't allowed to see the end of the game, so I snuck in my bedroom over to the radio and I turned it on. And so I heard the kick wide right. I never saw it. I heard it.
That's incredible. You and I are about the same age, coming of age, that 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old when the Bills are going to those Super Bowls. When you're becoming a fan of sports and you're growing up, how does that become part of your lifestyle when you're that young? It's really an incredible thing. Growing up here myself, same deal.
I think it does a lot for you. I mean, I think that being in sports keeps you off the streets, right? Mm-hmm. It's idle time, is the devil's plaything. So it's good to be in sports. So growing up in a sports town, it kind of drives you into sports. Thus, I was playing football with my brothers, and we were playing street hockey and baseball, basically just always active. And that keeps you kind of out of trouble, right? For the most part, except for when you break the neighbor's window occasionally with a rogue ball. But, I think just growing up with that mentality, I love it. And it's coming to me, and now it's into our family. And so our kids are living it. And I coach my son's football team up here in Nova Scotia, actually. And so, it's part of life. Don't know anything else.
Right. When you were growing up and you went to Clarence High School, how into sports were you at that point? And then you make that transition into acting. Take me through that.
Oh my, heavily. I loved playing football. I started playing football, when I was real young. Went through Lancaster to Clarence, graduated Clarence. We had a heck of a season our senior year. We were undefeated, and we lost to Aquinas.
Mm-hmm.
I think we were 13-0, and we lost that game. But just heavily into sports, heavily into the weight room, heavily into just everything, But it's funny because things have changed so much since then. So all the information that's out there to keep your body right and keep your mind right and to get the sleep and to, I love like Christian McCaffrey's, he doesn't wear jeans on game day kind of thing. His dad had him doing, or the day before game day, because it would take energy out of his muscles. It was too much strain. Mm-hmm. There's just so much more information now. But back then I feel like we were doing like the very caveman version of it, where you're like eating bagels and carrying around a gallon of water before game day, and that was like the best you had. Now you've got supplements and training regimens, and how much time you're using A, B, C, D muscles, and different training for rotational versus overhand throwing. I mean, just everything's changed so much, and information's right at your fingertips. So But man, I loved it. I loved it. I actually got to go back to Clarence last year and give the commencement speech.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Dude, it was awesome. It was so nice to go back and just be there and see these kids graduating and growing. It was awesome.
How has Clarence or Western New York changed at all since you've gone to LA and Canada and lived in different parts of the country? How has, when you come back home, how has that changed?
I mean, it's changed a lot. And then there's some things that haven't changed at all. You know, people are still awesome. Mm-hmm. That's the thing, right? It's like everyone, there's just a kindness and a love mentality there that, you know, your grocery clerks and your gas station attendants. And that's a very big thing for me. I love that, that relationship with the community. And I think that exists still in Buffalo, which is a beautiful thing. And it's not like that everywhere. It really isn't. And I've been everywhere.
Right.
You know, so I love that aspect of what it is. But obviously things have grown. There's been so much more development. There's so, you know, I get there and every time I get there, there's just some new structure that's going up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember when this was a field. And, you know, who knows, maybe I'll come in and add a few things. I'm not sure. Thinking about it.
Love it. Love it. Take us through how you became an actor. How did you get into getting your break in Hollywood and doing all those sorts of things?
You know, crazy story. I mean, ever since I was a kid, I just loved performing. That's just who I was. I remember during the halftime shows, or during halftime during the Bills games, I would put on like little shows for my dad and mom. You know, dress up as Jim Kelly and talk about how I was going to kick the other team's ass. It was great. It was awesome. And then 15, I was actually in the hospital, and I was there for about 2.5 months. But my nurse, every boy's dream, she was a model, and her name was Alana, and she was super sweet. And she says, you know, you should model. And I said, well, I don't want to model. I want to be an actor. Like, I want to make movies. That's what I want to do. She said, well, you can segue. You can segue from modeling into acting. It's what you can do. And I said, okay. And she said, I'm gonna make sure you're doing this. I'm gonna make sure that this happens. And sure enough, she kept to her word, and she connected me to a place called Right Models in Buffalo back in the day. And they helped get me to a convention where I met one man, and he took care of the rest. His name was Eddie Winkler, and he said, come out to LA. When you do, I'll introduce you to some people. I went out to LA and, you know, auditioned for some people and rooms for agencies, got an agent, manager, boom. Next thing you know, I was off to the races.
Excellent. And the former WB network played such a pivotal role for you in your early career. I mean, we're talking about Gilmore Girls and Dawson's Creek, and then obviously you get that big role in One Tree Hill.
Yeah.
When you got that role on One Tree Hill and that carried for a lot of seasons, what was that like for you at that time?
It was probably too much to handle, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. You know, I think it's funny because there's no playbook, right? There's no like to do, what not to do. So, you know, you're 21. I think I was 20 when I landed it, and 21 when we started season 1. You just, boom, it was like off to the races, shot out of a cannon. You're going to New York, and all of a sudden there's thousands upon thousands of people screaming in the streets. You don't really know how to comprehend what's going on. It's such a bizarre thing that I'm not sure that the human condition is built to handle. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I didn't know what to do. I just was like, oh, this is freaking insane. This is crazy. And I was just blessed with it, you know, grateful for the opportunity, grateful that I got to go through it, learned so much. I mean, I learned so much about life and gratitude and everything else. And so, you know, here I am now, 43, and I'm better for going through it. You know, if I hadn't gone through all that, I wouldn't be where I am now. 3 beautiful kids, amazing wife, and just traveling the world with these guys and just loving every minute of it.
What's the challenge in making that transition into that life? And you touched on it there. Like, how difficult is that for people to go through all those ups and downs of fame and celebrity and getting involved in things that you maybe never thought you would have when you're, you know, rooting for Jim Kelly when you're 10 years old?
Right. You know, I'll tell you, it's really, really, really freaking hard, mm-hmm. You know, because you're you're under a microscope and you don't necessarily know why, right? It's like you can, okay, let's say you make a post on your social media account and there's 100 wonderful, lovely comments, right? And there's one negative. That one negative comment can ruin your day, even though you had 100 positive comments, right? Just don't read the comments. It's not a good idea. It's like, just don't read reviews. Um, so you can really have your days really dragged down when there's someone who's out there that maybe is either a cynical or they're a pessimist, or maybe you don't make the right decisions when you're younger, and all of a sudden you're just squashed. And so the pressure it's a lot. And I feel so much for like the young kids nowadays, because it's even more so for them, because everything's on camera. Everyone's got a camera phone. Everybody's right there. So the pressure that's got to be on these young actors and artists today in music, television, whatever it is, I mean, it's almost insurmountable. It kind of crushes you to a certain degree, where anxiety's constant. It's so constant. It's building up in you at all times. Uh, and like I said, there's no playbook on how to get through it. You have to find what works for you. And so, like, for what works for me now is I never leave home without my family. We go somewhere for one day. We all go. And in a
That's
worst
awesome.
case scenario, yeah, like we travel as a pack. That's when Sarah and I met, we kind of made a deal. So let's do this the traditional way. Like, if we don't both work at the same time, because she is an actress as well. And it was like, yeah, if we're gonna do this, let's do this way. So I traveled. I remember I had a day trip, and it didn't make sense for all of us to go. So, like, I take my son, and my son went up to Vancouver in the morning, and we flew back that night. Um, but we just don't break up the pack, because then I've got that comfort to come home to, right? And you're taking out the other things, right? So I remember there was this. Never mind. Anyway, but regardless, that's kind of how we do it now.
Mm-hmm. When you're coming of age at that point and you're so busy and you've got this career that's really taking off, how are you able to follow the Bills at that point in your life? Like, how closely were you able to kind of pay attention? We're probably talking more drought years at that point, so maybe you didn't want to pay attention.
Well, we were in the drought, but I never missed. So we, on One Tree Hill, we filmed on Sundays, which was brutal. And I absolutely just detested it, because I'm a football guy. Like, not only do I watch the Bills, but then I had DirecTV. I had Sunday tickets, so I was watching every single game. That was my Sunday. I wanted to get up. Excuse me. Excuse me. I'd get up. I'm jet lagged from flying in from LA. We're a 4-hour difference from LA right now. So I would get up and I would get some wings from the butcher, and I would get them all prepped and ready to go, and I would deep fry wings, and I have people come over to the house. But then when we started filming on Sundays, our transport team was sweet enough to get me a satellite dish, and so they would put the game on in my trailer, and I'd go play basketball, and as soon as they yelled cut, I'd run and book out the door and go stand in my trailer and be standing in the doorway until they called me back, so that I could watch a play or two before I went back and shot again. And then I'd watch us just get destroyed, as we did in the drought. You live and die on Sundays, and primarily died at that point. And so, yeah, that was what I did. I watched the games via satellite in my trailer during shooting.
That's wild. I love it. That's fantastic. Stepping back just a little bit, were you a Doug Flutie or a Rob Johnson guy when that controversy went down?
Oh gosh. I mean, look, we all know that the answer would have been to keep Doug Flutie in, obviously. You don't take some young gun, throw him in under pressure into the playoffs. That just seems like illogical. I understand why, right? You're trying to change the hats. You're trying to get there, but not the time. Like, ride the hot hand, ride Doug Flutie, get through the playoffs, and then see what happens, right? See what happens. And then the next year, go ahead and start Rob. But it is what it is.
Yeah. Who is your all-time favorite Bills player, if you could narrow it down?
Well, that's a terrible question. All-time favorite player?
Yeah.
Oh man. I mean, I love the guys that we grew up with. You know, I'm such a '90s Bills guy because we grew up with Jim and we grew up with Bruce and Thurman and Andre. You know, and now I've got relationships with those guys. So, you know, when I first started in this industry, I started doing charity work, and Jim invited me years ago to one of his golf tournaments, and so I got to go out and meet Jim, and then throughout the years, Jim would come out and he'd play football with us, which was crazy town. So it was like Thanksgiving, and we had a pickup game at Sunset Park in Clarence in the mud. And he's you know, intentionally throwing people into the mud, into the puddles. But man, I think that when you see that level of play, by the way, just in a pickup game, you realize why he was where he is in the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because he put the ball just that far outside everyone's hands. There was no chance anyone was going to pick that off. You know, he never missed. It was pretty impressive, pretty unbelievable, just in a pickup game in the yard. But I mean, all those guys have just been great to me and to my family since over the last 15 years or so, 20 years or so. So I can't pick one. But the '90s Bills.
How could you, right? Yeah, that era was so incredible. I mean, you just look back at the old pictures of the old stadium when it was Rich Stadium, and it's 80,000 people and Zubaz everywhere, and people are drinking beers and smoking cigarettes. Just a different time, right?
Yeah, and the new guys are incredible. I love the new guys. You know, I mean, Josh, he's just like the most humble, down to earth human being there is. Like, he's your star quarterback, but he doesn't behave like, you know, everybody in the world wants a piece. He keeps himself grounded, and that's a very big deal, you know, especially when he's in like this blue collar town with he's got a great attitude, and Dion Dawkins, like, what a class act, genuinely all around. So we've got a really good group of guys now to build off of. That's the beautiful foundation that we have right now. And, you know, a couple more pieces, and I think that they're going to finally hoist that Lombardi. You know, my mouth to God's ears, but we'll see.
Definitely. You've been in a ton of TV shows and movies. For people that don't know what that's like, what is the difference when you're filming on set a movie and television? Like, how different are those two jobs, in essence?
Well, it just depends, I guess. Like, so in television, you're living in something for so very long, right? Like One Tree Hill. Excuse me, I keep yawning. So rude. Forgive me.
You're excused.
Thank you. With One Tree Hill, you know, I was there 6 seasons, and so you're living in this character's shoes. You know it so well. You could almost do it in your sleep, to be completely honest with you. Where a film, you're prepping, you're getting ready, you're going to camera, you're shooting, and then, you know, 2 months later, you're dusting it off and you're moving on, right? The honeymoon period hasn't even finished, right? So it's just all like, let's get to work. And it's very, very finitely focused. Where with television, because you're in it for so long, there's also other things and responsibilities that come into play, right? With Tree Hill, it was on the weekends, you're traveling for this photo shoot, or traveling to do TRL in New York, or traveling to do this. And it can really, really burn you out. In film, I remember we were just shooting Freaky Friday, or Freaky Friday 2. We did a day where we shot 2/8 of a page. For those who don't understand that, that's 1 page would be 8/8 in fractions world. So 2/8 of a page. You're shooting that much of 1 page in a whole day.
Wow.
Where in television, you're shooting, you know, 8, 9, 10 pages a day. So there's a very big difference in what you're coming to the table, what you have to prepare each particular day to come in. Even though I always prepare the entire script before I start, it's nice to know that you don't have that much of a workload on your plate for the day.
Mm-hmm. You talked about Freaky Friday and now Freakier Friday, Freaky Friday 2. 2003, you do Freaky Friday, and now 21 years later, you're back doing a sequel to that. How cool is that to get that group of characters and group of people you worked with back together and reprise that role?
So great. So great. yeah, and I can't sugarcoat. It was awesome. I mean, part of it felt like we had never left.
Mm-hmm.
Um, those friends that you have that like you see once every few years, but it's like you just saw them yesterday.
Definitely.
It's like that. It was like that. You get on set and you see everybody, all the producers that I remember from so many years ago, and all the actors that I remember from so many years ago, and you just hug it out, and you just go, "Oh my gosh, how are you?" Now everyone's got babies, and we were kids. We were kids when we made that, and now here we are, and like I said, a lot of us have kids and families, and it's just incredible. Jamie's got more energy now than she did then. Like it's absolutely incredible. It was a really, I don't know, it was a really full circle experience to just go back and to revisit this particular group of people and have so many laughs in the process. It's crazy.
When we were talking off air before this started, you said that it was really important to raise the bar because the bar was set very high by that film. How do you go about trying to do that? And obviously that plays into the writers and the director and everyone else and the actors as well.
You just try. There's no guarantee. You try, you do your best. And, I think story-wise, it's a lot more complicated this time around. I don't want to give anything away by telling you what that means, but it's a lot more complicated. There's a lot more storylines going on. There's so many more moving pieces, and you shoot with a condensed schedule, and there's obligations from actors here, there, where you've got to make sure that we fit everything else into a tight little bow, get it done, get it out, but do it well. And I gotta say that everybody just picked up and carried their part, or carried their load. Nish, our director, she was on it. Script was constantly in flux, meaning like ideas were always coming to the table, right? People were always wanting to elevate at all times. And that's a big deal, right? When you get a team of people that are all collaborating and really trying to make things work. Some characters we made tiny little tweaks to just kind of make it a little bit more fun. Other things you're going to see and go, I know that. That's so familiar. We got those nostalgia beats for you. So it's just a little bit of everything,
Sullivan's Crossing and the move to Canada and being a part of that in Nova Scotia. What has that been like for you and putting that project together?
It's awesome. I'm sitting in a high rise right now. Beautiful Nova Scotia. I love it here. I really do. I mean, this is like one of the best kept secrets in North America. It really is, as I completely put it out there. But shooting here has been magical because there's so much lush terrain, so many hiking trails, like the foliage right now for fall. It's just epic. You just go out and everything's so beautiful and the people are so nice. It's very much, Halifax is like the Buffalo of the States. Just reminds me very much of that blue collar attitude where everyone's willing to help out and, dig you out of a snowstorm if you need it. And so we've really, really enjoyed that. And this is our third year up here in Halifax. And so now we have friends and, we've really we wanted to get as fully immersed in the community as we could. Our kids have friends here. The kids go to school here, which they asked to do, by the way, which is just bizarre. We had homeschooled them because we travel so much for years and years and years. And finally they begged to go to school. What kid does that? Can I go to school? I don't know. I was like, you're not my kids. But sure enough, put them in and they love it. So it's been great.
That's awesome. How do you enjoy Bills games now? We talked a little bit about what you did in your younger years. Are you able to watch them more regularly than maybe you did when you're doing One Tree Hill?
Yeah, we don't film on Sundays.
Perfect.
So we don't film on Sundays. It's a little harder when, like, for instance, Monday night game. This Jets game's going to be tough because the game doesn't come on till like 9:15, 9:20 here. So it won't finish until like 1 in the morning. And I've got an early call on Tuesday. Alas, I'll probably miss the second half of the game. What are you going to do? But right. Sunday games, golden. On days I'm not working, like let's say I'm not working on Friday, Thursday night games are great. But yeah, we just watch as a family now. We sit down, pop the game on the tube. There's always lots of commotion because we got 3 kids running around, but it's great. We do that. And plus, I coach my son's team here in Nova Scotia. And so our weekends are pretty full of football. Right? we got a game on Saturday or Sunday. We got the Bills game, and then whatever else is on the tube for football, it's always on.
As a dad, how rewarding is it to be able to coach your son and impart that love of the game to your kid?
I mean, it's the best. It's the best, like I know he started flag at 4.
Okay.
And in Studio City in Los Angeles. And then, in California, you play all year round. You got your, January season, then you start again in April, and then you got a summer season, and you got a fall season, so you can play all year round. So he was playing all year round in different flags until 3 years ago when he put the pads on. He's 9 now. And he played like 7, 8, 9 in pads, full contact last year. They do like a transitional year where you wear full pads, but you still do flag.
Mm-hmm.
I actually really dig it because you get used to wearing the equipment and you bump into each other, but you're not like laying each other out, right? And so we did that, but it's the best, man. Like, and because I'm offensive coordinator, I can be on the field with him, and he plays quarterback, so I'm there behind the play. I'm drawing up the offense, and at home we can review, so he knows everything that's going on. And he's just got such a head for it. It's funny, here's the proud papa moments when you're in the game and you call a play and he sees something that you didn't see and he makes the play and you're just going, how did you, what? And he goes, well, I'm like, and those are the moments where you go, okay, all right, way to go, kid. Just because he's in the zone when he's playing. But it's been fun. Proud papa moments, and we still have, three games and then the playoffs still go. So we still got a lot of football left.
So you're real deep into this football thing. Like, you're an offensive coordinator. Your son's a quarterback. When you watch Bills games, do you kind of like pick apart a little bit what Brady and Allen are doing? Like, obviously you're not coaching in the NFL, but you've got an idea of what's going on out there.
Yeah, but you're still couch. You're couch quarterbacking, right? You're watching, going.
We all are.
We all are. That's what we do, and I think that's what makes the game so much fun. Is because all of us are like coaching from our couches at home. But I will say that you do see some things. Of course you do. And 99.99999% of the time, they've already seen it, and also 99.999% of the time they've seen it before you will see it. So they've grown up in this, they live it, they do it at a completely different level. But what is cool is having those moments to share with my boy where I'll say, hey, and I can pause the TV because we live in that generation and go, hey, what do you see? That's fun.
Mm-hmm.
And you can talk it out before the play happens, right? Like if the pressure's coming, what is he going to do? What's his out, or, just different things like that. We can talk about hot routes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, hey, what down is it? Give me down and distance. What would you do? Different things like that. Like I just put him into different scenarios. I mean, he's only 9, right?
Yeah.
But it's still getting his brain into that way of thinking, that pattern of thinking, so that when we're in the game, like he's already doing certain things that I'm so proud of him for, because he's such a kid still. He's just such a little kid, but he'll get up there and he'll start rushing his guys, and he's starting to emulate a lot of things, which I'm working on. But when you coach your kids, they start copying you, and you're like, no, you're a player, not a coach.
Uh-huh.
But he's also kind of coaching sometimes, which I guess you have to do when you're quarterback, because you got to get everybody where they need to be, and it's just about how he does it. So now we're working on, don't do it like I do it, do it like you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great. This year's team, they start out 3-0, and everyone's kind of thinking, wow, this team might be just still at that level to compete for a Super Bowl. And then they've lost the last 2. What have been your takeaways as far as what's kind of gone on this season through the first 5 weeks?
Well, I think expectations were high. Once you start 3-0, you start hot. I think the competition was obviously not the upper echelon of teams. The Dolphins, when Tua went down, that game completely went away, right?
Mm-hmm.
You look at Arizona and they're hit and miss, right? They're just so all over the place that I think they're still trying to figure it out. And we started out that game down, and then they got a hot hand. I think whenever you look at any team come in and you start 3-0, there's always kind of a hesitancy for me, because eventually some team is going to figure out a way to beat you on defense. They're going to figure out what you're doing on O, and they're going to go, okay, X and O's. All right. And they're going to pull out a defense that stops you. And it's when you readjust and start beating that new defense, that's when I'm believing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why the Chiefs are so scary all the time, because Andy Reid's just such a genius offensive mind, and he has such a tool in Mahomes that he can do anything with him, right? And when the play breaks down, he's really good at improvising. Josh is the same thing, but I just don't know exactly where Brady is in improvising yet. Obviously he's not Andy Reid. Andy Reid's a Hall of Famer, multi-Super Bowl winner. Maybe Brady will be someday. We don't know. But he's still in his infancy as far as play calling, right? So we'll see what happens. What have I seen? Look, I'm just going to say what I think everybody's already saying, which is I think we need a true number one, somebody that's getting doubles, so that Keon's getting out there and getting open, and that Samuel's going underneath and coming out in the slot. I think Shakir, obviously he's banged up right now, but putting Shakir, getting him more balls. I think you just need a true number one receiver. You need a threat, because if you can play man defense and truly cover all of our guys, that's a problem. You know what I mean? I think we all know it, and that's not a knock on him. Keon's young, Shakir's still young, and Shakir's getting the best separation, but he's not on the field right now. Kincaid, he's still growing. So my gut says next year the Bills are in the Super Bowl. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say I think with the free agency, I think we've got some cap room. I think they're going to make a couple big plays. I think Keon's going to be another year wiser. So is Kincaid, everybody. And I say, boom, that's it. Next year, they hoist Lombardi.
Can you imagine? Yeah, that's amazing. Can you imagine, both personally and collectively for Western New York and Bills fans around the world, what that feeling would be like when they finally do win a Super Bowl?
Hold on 1 second. I'm on a call. Okay, go. People walking into the room. I think it must be cleaning day or something. I don't know. Anyway, you know what? I want to be there, because the city's going to explode. Collectively, the city will explode. I think what's really nice is that because we've had this time where the team's been good, now I don't fear, it actually exploding. I think the pandemonium will be insane, or the fandemonium will be insane, and we'll all cry and shed some tears and celebrate collectively. But I think that, and I don't want to say this, this is not meant to be said in an arrogant way, but I think collectively the nation might celebrate. I think people at home will go, you know what? Go Bills. You know what I mean? I really do believe it. I've been everywhere. I've traveled so many different places, and everywhere I go, I'm not sure I've ever come across someone that hates Buffalo. I haven't. No one hates the Bills. They're a team that everyone's like, you know what? If you guys are in, I'm rooting for you. And I hear that everywhere I go, because I'm always wearing something, or it's on my suitcase, or it's somewhere. And so I have a lot of conversations about football on the road, and people are always very much in a go Bills mentality. And I love that. How can you not? So I think for the city, for the players, for the organization, oh man, what a moment. And I look forward to it. And it's going to happen. It's not if, it's when.
You've had season tickets for a long time, but haven't always been able to use them because you're so busy in the industry you're in. Do you look forward to a time when maybe you can use those tickets and be here a little bit more?
Well, we are going to be Buffalo residents very soon. We got a home. We got a home in Buffalo again. So my wife found it. My wife found this beautiful home. She fell in love with it, and so we recently just bought a home. So we will be in your neck of the woods. We'll be neighbors,
Love
and
it.
we look forward to it. You know, I I love it. Right, I've had season tickets for 23, 24, 25 years, something like that, 20 somewhere in there, and I get to one or two games a year. Going to more games, yeah, for sure. But it's such a loaded question because that means we're not traveling as much, we're not doing as much different things, right?
Yep.
So maybe if I could condense my schedule to working in the non-football season and then taking football season off, yeah, that'd be great. Just celebrate and party hardy for all of fall and January and February. Great, I'm in. Start working March through September, then boom, we'll do it.
Some of the projects you're working on now and things that you have coming up in the near future. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh gosh, it's been busy. I'm currently in Nova Scotia right now, filming Sullivan's Crossing season 3. Season 2 just hit televisions there. It's on the new CW. It's a new regime over there, and then so that's airing there. Season 2 is Married Gentlemen. They just did the announcement yesterday in the trades. We hit November 20th on Netflix. That's a spicy one. Get ready. Because what says Christmas like Chippendales?
Right. I saw some of the pictures online of what that's going to look like. So, yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Spicy is a good word for that.
Spicy's a good word. I got to say, like, I never imagined I would have so much fun making a film. But what a trip. Like, just so much fun. From the word go, it was a riot. What a great crew, great group of people, our producers, everyone from the top down, everyone at Netflix, Ian, Christina, they just took great care of us. And like, it was probably, I don't know, 6 weeks before we started shooting. I said, guys, I want like 3-4 sessions a week. So we were doing 6-hour dance sessions a few times a week. And I just fell in love with it. Like, I had never danced professionally by any means. And so to get out there and to do multiple dance numbers and learn all this choreography and just to get the feeling in the bones, like, what a trip. I had so much fun. And I thought, like, we're either all these 4 guys are either going to murder each other or we're all going to be best friends. Turns out we all ended up loving each other and like helping each other and lifting each other up, trying to get the best result in the film, which was great. So I think it's a good movie. And, as much as I like making the joke, it's not your grandma's Christmas movie, grandma can watch it. Just
Excellent.
like this.
Awesome. Great. Well, you know what? When the Bills win the Super Bowl and you're back in town, we'd love to have you on again and talk about all of this and what that's like, because I know you predicted it next year. We're going to have that in 2025, yep. Right?
2025, and it's perfect time. I mean, look, let's just go out there and just say the NFL's slightly rigged. Let's just throw that out there. Then they're going to wait till the 2025-2026 season because we're getting a new stadium. And what better way to generate revenue than with a Super Bowl winner?
See, you got it all figured out. You've got the angles, man. I love it. I love it.
Absolutely, man. So, yeah, Married Gentlemen, November 20th, Sullivan's Crossing Season 3, and next year, Freaky Friday.
Hey, we can't wait for that. That's going to be awesome. So, Chad Michael Murray, love to have you on here. It's been fantastic talking Bills and your career, Clarence and Buffalo and Western New York and chicken wings. It's been awesome. So, really happy to have you here, man. We appreciate it.
Dude, it's such a pleasure. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to being home. Hey, do me a favor. Put out some vibes. I want a white Christmas this year. Only because my kids are begging and pleading. And I'm like, guys, it's not a guarantee. It's like a, 33% chance we're going to get a white Christmas. They're sure it's going to be a white Christmas. So please, ladies and gentlemen, just put it out there. A white Christmas this year. My kids want their first Christmas in Buffalo to be a white Christmas. And that would be magic.
We'll talk to our meteorologist. We'll see if we can make that happen.
Boom. Love it.
Love it. All right. That's Chad Michael Murray. Thank you for joining us. This has been another edition of the Buffalo End Zone Podcast.